Alrighty, everyone. So today we're going to talk about two things: float and volume. And now this is going to be a two-parter because we're going to talk about what float and volume is, what it means, how I use to trade it, as well as why I have certain parameters set around how much a stock needs in volume and float in order for me to want to trade it. So we're going to dive deep into my scanners, as to why I have those parameters set. So, there we go. Test. There we go. First thing is, okay, so what is volume? This is obviously my setup, and you can see the volume in the top right hand corner. Let me go to something that I was trading today. QNCX. QNCX has 38 million shares of volume. That's decently good. Understanding that it's a cheaper stock, so it's going to have a lot more volume, just because basically all volume is a transaction between both parties, a buyer and a seller. So if there is 1,000 share buyer that sells to the 1,000 share, or that buys from the 1,000 share seller, that then creates 1,000 shares of volume. Now, you as a trader, one trade, you created 2,000 shares of volume because you bought 1,000 shares, which created 1,000 shares of volume, and then you sold 1,000 shares to the open market. So those transactions are what creates volume. Now we can have a lot of buy or sell volume. You can see within the candles, what one will outweigh the other one in a given time frame. If the sell volume outweighs the buy volume, the stock goes down, meaning there's more sellers than buyers. If the buy volume outweighs the sell volume, the stock will push up. Okay, so without really going deep into level 2 and things like that, that's just the overall basic as what volume is. Now, the reason why volume is healthy in a stock is it creates liquidity. Okay, so the easiest way I can describe it is one thing I liked about cryptocurrency is it had something called liquidity pools. Now, without kind of going in depth in liquidity pools, basically what it was there wasn't enough buyers and sellers, so they had to create a pool of liquidity that people can sell into or buy out of. Now in trading, the stocks were trading. I don't want that to happen. I don't want to trade things that are so illiquid. There has to be liquidity pools. In this case, there's enough buyers and sellers constantly transacting right now within the stock that I know I'm going to get in and out with ease. There was often times where within liquidity pools that I wasn't going to get in and out. I wasn't going to. Volume is important, so I know I can effectively just enter in a stock without having it partially fill my order, as well as exiting. Now, I don't trade with much size. The biggest size I've ever traded was in a hot market was around $300,000, and even 300 grand. I'm still getting in and out of these stocks decently easily. The thing about it is, people who have big position sizes that are trading with $500,000 and above can actually affect the price of this stock. So I don't want a stock that's kind of on the illiquid side, meaning there's less volume. Because if there's a lack of volume and there's a big seller, and then there's not enough buyers on the tape, it's going to just dump like that. How many times have you seen a stock literally dump in front of your eyes instantly? Often. That's where float comes into play. Okay, float is two-parter. Now, before moving on to float, are there any questions on volume and why it's important? Basically, volume is. I'm asking myself how many traders traded that stock that day and with how much positioning. Okay, so if it's a multi-day runner, I want it to continually increase in volume. If the stock is pushing up, I want it to continually increase in volume. The more volume it has, the better, because what's going to happen as it increases in volume, there's more and more traders trading it. It's going to generally continue to push up and higher and higher. Another tip on volume before I kind of go too much in depth is that's why I use the VWAP, the volume weighted average price. Now we're going to get into that in the next part. Yeah, I drink water out of a mug, okay? I know one of y'all were going to say that. I'm bougie like that. No questions on volume. Everyone got it? Everyone has it? Everyone understands it? That's probably better. So basically, a lack of volume. There's not enough traders trading it. If there's a high volume day one day, and then a not so high of a volume the next day, we know it's generally going to decrease in price. A decrease in volume generally means a decrease in price. So if I'm short, I actually want to see a decrease in volume. Okay, moving on. So float is a little bit different. Float is the overall amount of shares tradable. It is the supply. Okay, so if you had a bread stand at a baking show, um, your supply is how many loaves of bread you have. Because I guess overall, say there's 1 second. Hey Heidi, I'm gonna need you to quiet down. I'm doing a video live, if that's okay. If you want to bring him upstairs. All right. So when it comes to float, it is the overall supply, like I said. So the reason why I need to check the overall supply is if there's a super limited amount of supply. First of all, let me see this. The reason why it's good to check the supply is if there's not much supply, it means the stock can push up very quickly, which is good for me. I want stocks with low supply, so if there's a catalyst that pops and there's high demand for it, the stock's ripping. It's pushing up quickly, and there people want those few shares that that are out on the available market. Now, there's more to float than just supply. There's how much of the company's actually being publicly traded, because there's never 100% of the company being publicly traded. There's insider shares. For example, Elon Musk has 17% of the company. He has different shares, different voting shares than you and I do. For example, if a fund comes in and buys, say, 10% of shares, Elon Musk's shares are a lot different, as far as, because he's a CEO, it comes with different requirements. He doesn't sell them right to the open market. He can't log onto his broker account and just click sell like that. It's a lot different, a lot more legal stuff. But as far as traders, that's the common stock that we can trade, the float, that you and I actually have access to. That is just the supply I'm looking at. Now, the reason why that's good to have a limited supply is, like I said, it can squeeze up. Now, the reason why that can hurt you is because if it has a too limited of a supply, it can be extremely volatile. It can have extremely big spreads, because if there's so much, think about it. The way I look at it is, in the bread stand analogy, say you have really good bread and you have 3 loaves left, and you have 100 people that want that loaf. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be a ruckus. People are going to be pushing each other, trying to get that loaf of bread. It's going to be it's going to be passing hands so quickly, because people are trying to get at it. It's going to fluctuate in price. Everyone wants it for more and more and more. The problem with low supply is, if there's not enough supply for me to even get in on it, I don't want to trade it. For example, there was a stock that had a float of sub 1 million shares. It was MOB. Now, if I show you MOB right now, its supply is, or its float is, okay, I don't think this is right, but it's telling me 36,000 share float. That can't be right. That's one of the smallest floats I've ever seen. But this is the example I'm trying to show you guys. It's got a stupid low float, and if I didn't know float, I wouldn't have traded it. So, for example, PXMD had a 1.2 million share float. A little bit on the lower side, but it was tradable. I had a solid trade on it. AMBI had a lower float, had a 5 million share float. That's kind of in the perfect range. I don't like to go anywhere above really 10 million generally. Now, the problem with too much supply is stocks can't push up quick enough. For example, you look at SPY. SPY won't even show me. So Tesla. Tesla has a 2.7 billion share float. Apple has a 15 billion share float. That's too much supply for a stock to squeeze up 20% or more in a given day, generally speaking. It's just way too many. It's just way too much supply. It's not a limited amount of supply. Basically, if it has a good catalyst, it has enough supply for just about anyone to buy a share. Just about anyone can buy an Apple share. 15.8 billion shares, that's enough for each person in the entire world to have 2 shares. Every person in the entire world to have 2 shares. That's not competitive enough. I need something 10 million shares or below. Now, that you understand what float and volume is, we're going to talk about the requirements I have in my scanner. So, again, we have several chapters already in the Day Trader course on the scanners I do use. Again, these are paid scanners. I am an affiliate, so if you guys want these scanners, I can give you my code. You can get them 15% off, and I could send you my actual setup for free. But unfortunately, you can't download the setup unless you have the scanners paid. But I still have them, right here for you guys to be able to use. Now, if I go to configure, you'll see I have several things. So first of all, float. Minimum is 400,000 shares of float. Maximum is 50 million shares. Now, that's a decent range, okay? The reason why I have such a big range is because I'm trying to split test to figure out down to the nitty gritty exactly what my best numbers are. Now, I know right now I usually perform the best between 5 and 10 million shares. However, there's a rare occurrence where a stock will have, for example, I started this out with 1 to 10 million. And then I missed an opportunity that had 900,000 shares of float, and I would have traded it. So I went down to 900,000, then went down to 400,000. Now I found right here at 400,000 shares, there hasn't been a stock that I've noticed that I've A, missed out on because it's got below 400,000, or B, it's close to 400,000 and I actually traded it. So now I'm trying to narrow the gap even more. So right now, basically, I opened kind of open sesame. I try to see, what my win rate was in the 50 million to 400,000, and now I'm squeezing it back again together. And I know that range is going to fall within 1 to 10 million, but within even more so 5 to 10 million is kind of my sweet spot. Over 10 million is just 30 million and up is just way too much of a flow in my opinion. Too hard to trade unless it's like a DWAC where it's a politically driven catalyst and everyone wants a piece of it. Now, when it comes to the volume, excuse me, I do minimum 500,000 shares of volume. I'm sorry, that's float. Volume a day. Minimum 250,000 shares of volume. That's my requirement. Now, you could be like, okay, Jason, but if a stock, hits, if a catalyst hits a stock and it starts to soar, but there's only a few 100,000 shares of volume because they got on it very quickly, why wouldn't you trade that stock? Well, reason being is because my whole goal as a trader isn't to get on stocks, right as the catalyst comes out. My goal is to watch it play out and then trade according to the catalyst. For example, I think it is too risky to jump on a stock within the first 250,000 shares of volume than it is for me to just wait, have liquidity be there, have volume be there, and then trade the wave up. Because as the goal of the trader is not to get in the very low and get out the very top. In fact, if you keep trying to get into the very low, what's going to happen is the stock will jump. It'll have a little algo spike. There's algorithms that buy that stock just so it can push up a little bit in case it is a good catalyst. Market finds out it's not a good one. Those algorithms dump those shares on those individual traders trying to get in quickly, and then traders are down 20-30% a day. I would rather you just wait, let the stock play out, get some volume first, minimum 250,000 shares, and then you can trade it. Trust me on this, guys. I know the biggest thing is you want to get on a stock early, but I'm telling you, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it, okay? Can everyone kind of agree on that it's better to just wait for a stock to play out and then play accordingly than try to hop on it the second a catalyst comes out? Obviously, the sooner the better, right? Clearly. But if it has less than 250,000 shares of volume, you are either in on it too soon, or that this catalyst wasn't really that good and no one's really trading it anyway. So, in my opinion, I had a better win rate when I stopped trying to just get in because I wanted to get in early and then just letting the stock play out. Okay? So, those are my requirements for float and volume. Now, that was the two-parter I was talking about. I wanted to talk about first what is float, what is volume, and second of all, I wanted to talk about how I use it in my scanners every single day when it comes to trading. Does anyone have any questions on those two requirements as to why I have those parameters set? Okay, I have multiple parameters, but those are two that are givens. Has to have at least 250,000 shares of volume. It has to have, generally speaking, at least a million shares of float. Again, I've traded nano floats before. I've traded floats around 700,000, 800,000, but with light positioning. Okay, so my win rate's not as good. This game is all about probability, guys. It's all about probability. Where's your highest probability of success? Mine, 3 to 10 million, 3 to 8 million, even is the best. Um, it's just it's just what I know I'm good at. It's what my strategies work well on. Same with volume. It needs to have at least 250,000 shares of volume. Now, I already talked about how to accurately predict volume. That is in the either premium archives as well as in the chapter 2 of Momentum Day Trading course on how to accurately predict volume. That is for a short play, short opportunity, or continued momentum play. Today was just talking about what is volume and what is float. Okay. So looks like none of you guys have any questions on the two. Looks like you guys all got it. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me or just comment on this video because I am going to record it and post it privately for y'all in the Discord. Hopefully you guys have an excellent day of trading. Pretty solid group lesson. Hopefully it helped you guys out and creating parameters for yourself when it comes to trading. Creating parameters are super important to figure out how you can increase. One of the only ways to increase win rate dramatically is to set parameters for yourself. Okay. Alrighty, team. Appreciate you all for joining in. I'll catch you first thing tomorrow morning. Peace, guys.